Welcome back to the Biped recipe lessons. We've had a lot of feedback recently, and so let's jump right into a few of the common errors that are going to occur as you're doing this recipe. So the main errors we're going to look at are the seam that goes across the middle. So your center edge loop line right here, it's going to get off center a lot. So every time you do a symmetrical character or model, you're going to constantly delete one half, straighten out this middle edge loop, recenter it, and then duplicate special over to the other side. That's part of the process. The other thing that's happening is might crisscross across the center line, so that one side is going across the x-axis and the world axis, and which makes, if you do the duplicate special, the other side also, so they're penetrating through each other. They're crisscrossing, basically. Right. And then the other thing that can happen is if you are off symmetry a little bit and you have the symmetry tool turned on and you're moving this rotational or any scaling with by moving the center point, perhaps when you do one side, the other side doesn't follow perfectly. When you get this occurring, what you just want to do is delete one half and just work on the one half that's good, and then duplicate over and recenter that. So let's take a look at how this works. First, let's just recap how simple this recipe really is. It's one torso cylinder that has 12 subdivision axes. That's the axes that rotate around. So you see here, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 on each side. That's 12. The attributes I put on the height, you can always change and add more, but I tried to keep them kind of square. This is a 15 centimeter radius and 60 centimeter height. And it's got 8 subdivisions across for the torso, and it's got 2 on the cap. So you have these circles on the cap. So the leg down here, I put at a radius of 8. So it's 8 centimeters radius, which is 16 centimeters across in diameter, a height of 80 centimeters, and very simple. 8 sides, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 around, and then 4 for the height radius, so that's 1, 2, 3, 4. If you count starting from bottom up or bottom down, so you count 1, 2, 3, 4 is the height. 1 for the knee, 1 for the middle of the thigh, 1 for the middle of the calf, and then height cap of 1. So just to recap, on the cap, you go create, polygon primitive, cylinder, pull up the settings box, type these numbers in manually. Here's the settings for the torso. So I just went 50, 15, 60, 12, 8, 2, hit apply, and there's your torso. Okay, so you have to have this as your main torso for any mammal, biped or quadruped. We'll show you the quadruped in the next lesson. For the leg, we just kind of look at this one here again. 8, 80, 8, 4, 1. So we'll go 8, 80, 8, 4, 1, and hit create. And there's your leg. So with these two pieces, you can make anything, right? Or a biped for a human, for the most part. We could just extrude up the pieces we need for the other parts. The next part in this is to get rid of the diagonals. For the leg is really simple. So we just go to the edges, and you'll notice I have the symmetry. You got to have your tool settings on, and your symmetry settings and soft selector right here. We've had people have these go on off B. We talk a lot in all the videos. B on and off is your soft select. When B is on, you hold down the middle mouse and drag. Right, so if you grab one, hold down B and middle mouse drag right to left. It makes the influence radius bigger and smaller. That's the radius right here on the soft select. Okay, just B to turn that off. And then the symmetry tools right here, object X. And if I'm doing something like move, W, you see symmetry still there, soft select still there. They still get kept in the tools menu. And you have world movement, and you have resetting of the pivot. So we're moving the pivot around a lot, holding down D. Right, so if I hold down D, that lets me move the pivot around. If I hold down D and then V, that makes a little circle. I got to grab that circle very carefully, not any of the control handles, not the circle, not the end of the arrow, but the circle in the middle, and then snap to the vertex. Okay, let me get that down here on the bottom. D and then V. Grab that little circle. If you need to angle around a little bit, that's with your Alt left mouse button. You can even middle mouse wheel roll in. D and then V. Grab that circle very carefully, drag it to the bottom. Scroll back out, and then if I want to snap this to the grid, I hold down X and snap that to the, whoops. Hold down X, and then we can snap that to the grid. Huh. So mine did something weird too. Just reset that. It's all right. D and V. And hold that down to the grid. Oh, wow. So if I've been moving this around again, you can just freeze transforms, delete history. That should get rid of any strange things happening here. Now the errors you're seeing is if I'm in component mode, I'm moving around the vertices, right, and playing around with the pivot points for these components, or if I'm in object mode and playing around with the components. And that's where the symmetries get off on the main model. And it's really easy to mess up. And I actually didn't do that on purpose. I messed it up on accident and realized, oh yeah, that's good. I messed up. So I can show you guys how this works. So going to object mode and moving the pivot helps a lot. Getting rid of the diagonals, let's finish off that thought. So we can turn symmetry off for now and just kind of pick these out one at a time. Use Q to select. 1, 2, 3, 4. Use control backspace to be safe. Go spin from underneath. 1, 2, 3, 4. You can go to X-ray mode just to make sure you didn't get anything on the backside on accident. Control backspace to delete. Okay, so that is a limb, right? I can use that as a leg or as an arm. Go back to object mode. W, go to my pivot. It's at the bottom right now. If I wanted to have the pivot at the top, hold down D and then V. Remember, it's object mode, not component mode. That's the mistake I was making, so it even happens to veterans. So there we go. It's up there at the top. And then if I want that to be centered in the world, I can delete its history, freeze its transforms. You see the channel box here has the moves of where I've moved it from when it was originally created. If I freeze it, that's now its 0 stationary point. Okay, so if I want to make this an arm, I go Control D, I duplicate it, bring it up here next to the torso. E, rotate it. Rotate it 90 degrees. I got my channel layer on here. I'll just go -90. There we go. And it's an arm, not a leg, so it's a little thinner. So I'm going to go R to scale, and I go to the side over here a little bit, so I can get the handle for 2 axes, not all 3. If I just want to, if I want to keep the length and only scale on these 2 axes, I got to grab the control handle there. If I want to do all 3 axes, I go to the box in the middle, and that does all 3 equally. Right, so it's important to remember that as well. And I think for the arm, we kind of did some orangutan, like chimpanzee monkey arms originally, ape arms. So you can bring it in here and then go to R, scale, and scale it down a little. When you get it about where you want, go ahead and freeze it again. And that will freeze the transform and the rotations around. Let's go to the leg here. Okay, and that should be good enough to take to the torso. The other part here, really not having the right torso is a major error that people are making. So you really need this torso here. See, and we can even lower the radius down maybe a little bit. Maybe you could start off your torso at 10 centimeters. So 10, 60, subdivisions 12, and the height subdivisions are 8. And then the caps on the top are at 2. Okay, once you have that, then we get rid of the diagonals here. So this time you have 2 in each quadrant. So 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. You're keeping the horizontal edge loops that go around from front to back and side to side. Say Control backspace, that deletes and gets rid of it. So you're left now with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-sided shapes. Anytime you have 5-sided shapes, you can cut in between and make it all quads, which we're going to do. Go down here to the bottom, same thing. Grab these diagonals, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Control backspace. There we go. Okay. Go back into the modeling toolkit. This is your multi-cut tool. So far we've only moved things and moved the pivot and deleted some edges. That's all we've done. go to multi-cut, and then you can cut across the shoulders this way, or you can cut across this way. For the groin, though, we want to make sure that we're cutting across from here to here. Enter. From here to here. Enter. It is important what angle. I'm at a nice flat angle on this. That makes it easy to do. Okay, let's take a look at the front here. So for the front, to go across the sternum, let's take a look at what we did here on the shoulder. You see it's not too much different over there for the we're pulling the head up, so we'll go ahead and go same as the bottom here just to keep it simple. 1 2 1 2, and maybe in the other videos I went across this way instead, but you see it's all quads now. If I hit 3 on the keyboard, it smooths very nicely, and I hit Q on the keyboard and that puts me back into smooth is 3, 1 goes back to low poly. It's just a visual in the viewport. You don't want to actually go up to mesh. If you've looked it up online, I haven't shown you yet, but you don't want to go up here to the mesh and use any of the smooth algorithms that you might find up in here. Right, they're smooth right there. So you don't do that yet. You want to keep it low poly. It's really important. Okay, so this thing's just about ready to go. Now what we want to do for connecting these two parts is we want to bring the leg up close to the groin and bring the arm close to the torso. It's a little bit, yeah, I made it a little too skinny. Go to R, let's scale it out a little bit more. And everyone's having a pretty easy time on the shoulder, so I'll just show you one more time though. So just pull it out a little bit. Get rid of the interior faces here. So 1 2 3 4, whoops. Or delete. Remember, Control Shift helps to add. So if I hold down Control, it takes away. Control plus the Shift button. Control and Shift together lets you add. See the little plus sign. I think everyone's got that okay. When we connect it to this, however, we go an 8-sided shape will connect to 4 quads. We'll create an 8-sided shape in the shoulder, right? And just going to do one side. I'm not worried. I'm just going to delete that half, and that way we can do the seams again. So we go to Extrude, hit Extrude 1 time. Switch over to Move Tool, bring it out a little bit, and then R, we scale it in on these 2 axes. There we go. To about the size of that octagon shape, right, of the arm. Okay, once we have that, we can go to Object Mode, bring that in nice and tight, just like that, and you can connect. Once we delete the interior faces here on the torso, we can get rid of these faces here, right? So I'll just go to my Select Tool, Q, grab those 4 quads, hit delete. And now, once we join these together, we can merge those vertices together. But let's do the groin again for just a moment. So go here to the leg, my Move Tool, let's move it out of the way for just a minute. Or let's just look at the underneath the torso, move that over a little bit. Okay, so we need to have a set of quads here in order to connect the leg together, right? So just double check over here with the leg. We have that coming underneath here. 1 2 and then 3 4. That's looking correct. So pretty straightforward. So we're just going to grab this edge right here on the side, and we're gonna make it larger. Double click and it'll go to where it comes to 3 side. You have to continue that edge all the way around. Go to R to scale. You get underneath here a little bit so you know which axes you're going on. Scale it out a little bit. Okay, grab these 2 and maybe these 2 and scale those out a little bit. And you'll see we're creating the space to have the 8-sided cylinder here, right here. Of course, going to come underneath for the front of the groin. Okay. That makes sense to everyone. What you don't want to do is you don't want the leg here. You don't want the leg to be on a seam right dead center. You don't want the legs to touch each other at the crotch. You need to have that groin area separated in the middle. So for this one, I'm going to go ahead and turn, have symmetry off right now just to make it easier. I'm just going to scale them together a little bit more like that. Okay, then these ones here, 1 2 3 4, we can scale them out a little bit. And then we could even scale those in a little bit more. And the golden rule with the quad is you don't want to break the quad where it starts pushing in, right? We want to make sure we're keeping it a good 4-sided shape for ourselves. Okay, and that should be just about good to go. So this leg is going to pop right in here at the groin. Okay, so let's grab these And we can bring that down a little bit and then grab the next ones and bring those down just a little bit. There we go. And that is our groin region. So now we go 1, 2, 3, 4. And we do the extrude, bring it down. Okay. And that's going to let us make this into an 8-sided shape for the octagon. But for now, we could just delete that. Delete that side. Delete that side. Okay. So let's get that center line fixed up. The neck we could just do real quick as well. So we'll just grab these ones right here. This is going to be our neck, right? Let's scale that out. Do that. Make sure you get all of them. Scale it out a little bit. There we go. That should be good enough for our neck. Pull that up a little bit. As we go up, if we want to hit B, is our soft select. Pull down B, middle drag. We can get like a little pull from the other ones around it as well. Go. Helps get the shoulder going a little bit. Okay, hit B again. Turn off soft select. You can just leave in the tool tab. You leave it over here. Leave soft select and symmetry open so you get used to how these work because we use them a lot. Okay, they go on and off with B. All right, so extrude. Just do the neck real quick. Pull up. Extrude again. Switch to W. Pull it up. I'm not even looking at the image plane, right? You just need the edge loops right first. It's edge loop flow is key to having good models. And so, you know, if you can just accomplish this part here, you'll be okay. Okay, and you can bring in, you know, we can get the anatomy and the collarbone and do that image plane. That's the next step, right? You don't do that first. Okay, same thing down here. All right, let's center this up. So grab the faces right here, hit delete. Now what can happen is, I'll make sure I get these ones down here as well. What can happen is you can get off center, right? So you can get, say you get some of these vertices over here and some of these vertices over here. And let's just isolate this thing for a moment so we can really focus on this thing. And we'll go to the front viewport even. Okay, so let's say you get really off, and let's make it even worse. Let's say we get all the vertices and we get them all shoved over here. Okay, so now our center point now that's the thing. The center point for the object still stays put, right? So that is still at 0, but the rest of the vertices can be moved, right? So even though the object, and when you grab components, when you grab all the components, it's going to put the center pivot at the average of all the selected components. But when you go back to object mode, it still remembers, it's a parent-child node, right? So it still remembers where that center line is. So in order to get those evened up, you want to go to the vertex mode, get them as close, first off, go to object mode, right? And let's say let's say I move the pivot. Let's say the pivot's like off way over here, like wherever the pivot is, right? Hold down D in object mode, and then X, and then snap that pivot back to your center line of your world. You should have your center line very visible on your grid, right? So again, right click on the grid up here in the viewport, grid options, change the colors, make sure the main axes are, you know, easily definable. I just hit apply there. There we go. 110, apply. There we go. And they're all gray as I changed my background today, right? Just, you know, make whatever colors work for you with this. So you know where you want to know where your 0, 0, 0 world coordinate is. 0, 0. And from the top down is also 0, right? Here's the ground down here. 0, the red. Right, so right now I'm kind of floating high up off the center line. So if I go back here to the grid option, and let's do it something lime green, so it's unmistakable. There we go, on the black background. Okay, so get the model close to where you want it to be. Okay, hold down D and X, snap that to the grid. Make sure it's also snapped to the grid from the top-down viewport. So go to the top-down viewport, it's back here. So let's center that up. I'm going to bring it back, holding X to 0. So now it's 0 and 0 this way. It's also 0 and 0 this way. It's not 0 down on the ground yet. Right, so I could bring it down here, hold down D and X. Make sure you grab the arm of the gizmo. So D moves the pivot, X grabs the arm and drag it down to the bottom and let go. Okay, that's going to be my new pivot to the center of the world. Freeze the transform, delete the history, go into the object component mode, vertex mode, and we can center that up. But let's see what the error looks like, right? So we already did the freeze transform and delete history. That's the important part. We go to edit, duplicate special, and we want it to cross over a copy on -1 on the scale. So I'm on a brand new computer now, so all of my settings are empty. So this is good. I'm starting from scratch again. So hit apply, and there you go. So there's my messed up biped torso, right? So this should look familiar to everyone. So to fix that, I'm going to go in the front viewport to make this a little easier. You can work on either side because you did a duplicate special. And did I make it an instance? I don't know. I think I might have forgotten to. So if I grab those vertices, they do not move the other one, right? So let me delete that one. I want it to be an instance, so whatever I do to one side does the other. So whatever you did last time, and I have, like I said, I've had it setting like that for so long that I forgot to switch it to instance because I had it defaulted instance for weeks and months, right? So now if I hit apply, now these two are instances of each other, right? So they're carbon copies that are updated live. So if I go to vertex mode, if I grab just these vertices here and move them, they're going to move the other side too. So straightening these vertices out, you want to get all the vertices in that edge loop. So you want to go down here, and we can go to X-ray mode. You want to grab all the vertices at the middle of this model, not these ones, right? And you can double check underneath in the perspective view. You don't want to grab these ones. You just want that center line, the vertical key line, for those of you who've done figure drawing, right? Switch to scale, R, grab that handle, make sure you have it rotated to the correct direction too. It should be facing front. Grab that X handle on the scale and scale it towards the center, and you go past it, and that flattens everything out. You see I missed one right here. I also missed one in the back right here. No problem. Just rescale again, and they're all going to average out, so they're perfectly straight. Now there's a gap, so you could have yours accidentally, it could be, like this. They could be crossing through each other. Okay, or there's a gap. Either way, you want to go to the front viewport. If you've aligned your object to center, now you can hold down X, and you can snap them together. And now you've reasserted a straight symmetry line at the center of your model. Okay, next step, grab the object mode. And you did make these two one object. Right now they're two separate objects. They're instances of each other, but they're two different objects. They're listed as two different objects. If I hit F on the keyboard, it'll show you which one. So there's one polygon, there's the other polygon. So P cylinder 8 and P cylinder 11 are two different models, right? Marquee drag across to go to combine, which is also mesh combine or separate right here. So mesh combine, it's all one model. Remember, those vertices in the center are not welded. You then go to vertex mode, make sure you grab all those vertices. If there's still a gap between them, let's say, let me go back to the tool setting, go to the move tool, and we'll do symmetry on object X. Say I have, let's see, is it not going to snap? Oh, okay. It's not what I want to show you. That's okay. We'll continue. All right. So I just want to grab all the vertices in the center and merge them together. So go edit mesh, merge, pull up the settings box, make sure the settings box, I go 0.05 is pretty safe, and hit apply. And that way, if I turn off the symmetry settings and grab one vertex, they should be one. There shouldn't be two there anymore that are not welded together. And close. So that's how you clean up the different symmetries, and the next one, that's this problem here where they're crisscrossing through each other. That's also this problem where they've not quite met up in the middle. So you do that a lot, because when you're working on a model, you want to kind of pick and choose when you work on one side, just one side, but you don't want symmetry on, fix it, and then delete one half, duplicate special, seam it up. You're going to do it probably 50 to 100 times this semester, so get comfortable with it, get used to it, and be zen with it, and you'll be just fine, I promise. All right, the next step is going to be with the arm, so let's go out of the symmetry mode here, and I'm going to grab the object here. It's strange, where did my neck go? Oh, okay, so I had the other one there from before. So let's grab the arm and the leg. Let's bring those up. Okay, so now I have this arm here. I'm going to bring it over. And now if I weld it to the one half, it's not going to update to the other half, right? I can make two arms, though. I can do that. So let's make the arm the same on the other side. Let's make sure, first off, I did delete the interior faces. I see there's an open gap there. Yes, we're good. The open gap over here. Yes, we're good. Okay, so hold down D and X on object mode, not on component mode, right? Oops, hit spacebar on accident. D and X goes circle, grab that circle, drag it down to the center of the world, 0, 0, 0 world space coordinate, freeze it so that it transforms on the channel layer, all zeros, except for scales are all ones. Duplicate special, edit, duplicate special. And for this one, we don't want an instance. Let's just do a copy. It's going to make a copy and flip it to the other side, -1. Scale X is going to do a -1 to the X side. Hit apply. There it is. Close. Grab these two arms. Combine them together in the modeling toolkit. Okay, now they're one model. And now if I merge them together with this piece and combine it, now it's all one symmetrical piece. But every time you merge and combine models together, it redoes the pivot. So you constantly have to go D and then X again, grab that circle and put it back down here, and then freeze it and delete it. And I'm sorry, that's just the way it is. I wish it wasn't like that. It's a bit better in 3ds Max and Modo and others, but it's just something Maya has always been kind of wonky on. Because of the strength of Maya, it has some weaknesses, right? Now, if this is off a little bit, if I go to, if you want to see if this is even, if you have symmetry turned on, so right here, turn symmetry object X. Hopefully these two, if you click one side, it does the other. So that could be what happened when you go to, go to rotate one shoulder or something like that. If one side's off a little, you maybe have to delete the other half again, bring that pivot back down to the center, and reduplicate it and rejoin it again. So it's pretty constant, but it's not the worst thing in the world to have to do. So let's make these even again. So I'm going to go double click. Remember, if you just double click a face, it'll grab all the connected faces that are not welded or seamed to the other one. So if I double click here, it does the whole torso, but it's not connected yet to the arms, even though they're one model, right? So if I go Control Shift and double click add, it does all the components. It's still one object, but at the component mode, if they're not connected, I double click, it does everything. This is really useful for when we do hair and costume stuff. So you'll want to know how to do this. Okay, we go to the vertex mode. And we just connect them together. So we can do one of two ways. You can take each vertex one at a time, hold down V, and connect from the torso to the arm. 1, 2. And we know there's 8, right? Oops. Make sure you get it a good view angle. And I know I'm off a little bit, but I would click on the vertex first, get into a good position, then hold down V. Make sure there isn't a vertex behind it, like right behind it's going to accidentally snap to. Okay, and it should do, if I have object X on, it does. It should be doing the other side dynamically. It is, so we're good. There you go. Okay, once you're done with that, you can marquee drag all those vertices, and it should do the other side. And we go Edit Mesh, Merge, and threshold's at 0.5 or 0.51 now. Now if I smooth it, hit 3 on the keyboard, it's a nice smooth transition. That's where we know it merged it. Now, when I did the merge, it only did one side. It didn't do the other side. That's super annoying. I didn't know it would do that. Let me grab the other side here again. Edit Mesh, Merge again. enter, and then 3 smooth, and now it did it. So that was an error. Like if I selected one side and it's symmetrical, it should have done the other side. So I just found I would consider that a bug, really. So you could do the same thing with the legs, right? And do the same thing with the hands. And that should get everybody up to speed, I hope. If you have any questions on how I'm doing these, just let me know. I'll keep making these videos to catch up with people who are, especially for the asynchronous people who are watching videos and can't interact with me live. I hope you can show up on the open studio, open office hours, and get help directly. That's much faster than this, but yeah, good stuff. I'll see you in the next video.